What is up, guys? So, The Flash Season 5 Episode 1 came out 2 days ago, and I noticed in the episode, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people also did, there were a crap ton of Easter eggs, all of them coming from Nora Allen, saying things that maybe Team Flash shouldn't know about, things from the future, people that they don't really know yet, events that haven't happened yet, items that they probably shouldn't have had yet, locations they don't know about, and even a word that they don't know about either. And I'll go over every single one of those Easter eggs in this video. Who knows, if this video does well enough, I might even make this into a series for every episode of The Flash and Arrow and maybe Legends of Tomorrow, possibly Supergirl. I go over all the Easter eggs if I could find enough for that episode, but with this episode, I think there are a lot. So let's start with the people. First up is Lightning Lad. Now, if you don't know who Lightning Lad is, his name is Lightning Lad, aka Garth Rands, and he's a member of the Legion of Superheroes, and he basically just has electricity powers. So this is actually kind of interesting because if Nora Allen knows about Lightning Lad, that means that there's a version of the Legion of Superheroes, or at least Lightning Lad, who exists in like 2040, because I'm pretty sure that's where she's from, around the 2040s. So that's weird because in the comics, as well as in the Arrowverse, the Legion of Superheroes are from 1,000 years in the future. That's also weird because the Legion are not on Earth 1, they're on Earth 38. Now this might mean that Earth 1 and 38 do combine, which I think they should, in the Elseworlds crossover this year. Who knows, maybe. And it also might mean that Lightning Lad is from 1,000 years in the future, but he time traveled back to the 2040s because he needed to do something like that. That's very possible as well, but I think this reference of Lightning Lad is very cool. It's a great reference. If you don't know XS in the comics, who is Nora Allen on the show, in the comics she is Jenny Ognatz, and she is a member of the Legion of Superheroes. She's also the granddaughter of Barry Allen, so there still is a connection there. Also, what's cool is that Lightning Lad has a sister in the comics, and his sister was actually mentioned on Supergirl. The Legion of Superheroes said that they have a friend named Isla, who in the comics, they do have a friend named Isla, who's a member of the Legion of Superheroes as well. Isla Rands, the sister of Lightning Lad, and she is Lightning Lasso. Maybe he is from maybe a different Earth. Maybe he is from Earth 38, 1,000 years in the future, and he could both time travel and universe travel. Or maybe the universes connect and morph into one universe in the future, or maybe Earth 1 has its own Legion of Superheroes, possibly in the 2040s, more likely 1,000 years in the future, and Lightning Lad just comes back to the past, to the 2040s, to do something. But I just think this Easter egg is a pretty cool reference to a pretty major DC character who has yet to appear on the Flash or any Arrowverse show. The second character Nora Allen mentioned came from the scene where Barry got his new costume from the Flash ring, which, by the way, I will go over the Flash ring in this video. It is an Easter egg to the comics, but the new costume was designed by Ryan Choi, which is what Nora Allen said. So Ryan Choi in the comics is the second Atom after Ray Palmer. Basically, if they just ever need to replace Ray Palmer on Legends of Tomorrow, they have Ryan Choi. I honestly wouldn't be against that. At this point, Ray Palmer on Legends of Tomorrow is barely even like a character. He's just the Atom, and that's it. He has no character development or anything. Most characters on the Legends of Tomorrow don't really have much character development except for like Wally West and Rip Hunter and Sarah Lance. Nobody else really got much character development, at least like in the current lineup of the Legends. So I think that Ray Palmer doesn't really need to be there anymore, and I think he can easily be replaced by somebody like Ryan Choi. But Ryan Choi basically was like a friend of Ray Palmer's from his childhood, and Ray Palmer, once he resigned from being a professor at Ivy University, and Ryan Choi actually took up his role, he left him the Atom suit, and Ryan Choi became the second Atom. Honestly, I would think that they can actually introduce him this season on The Flash, because let's say he's 50 years old in 30 years, he'd be around 20 now. It's possible that he designed this costume when he was around 50, so like just so it could be possible for him to appear in this season. So I think if that's true, they could introduce like a 20-year-old, maybe even a teenager, who is Ryan Choi and who will maybe become the second Atom in the Arrowverse. The third and final character that Nora Allen mentioned in the first episode of The Flash Season 5 is Mob Rule, who is a villain in the comics who has a very close connection to the plane scene in this episode. Nora Allen even said that she read something in the Flash Museum where Barry used this technique of phasing a plane through a bridge to fight Mob Rule. This is an exact reference to the first comic book of the New 52 Flash run, where Barry, who in the midst of fighting Mob Rule, phased a plane through a bridge. I want to say first issue. I'm not exactly sure, but it's definitely the first volume or the first storyline in that New 52 run. And Mob Rule was basically an old friend of Barry Allen's. They do add a lot of old friends for Barry Allen's, like, retroactively, and he was basically he had the power of regeneration, and he also had a lot of clones of himself, hence the name Mob Rule. But I like the fact that they actually referenced this exact storyline where Barry did phase a plane through the bridge fighting Mob Rule, and that's definitely what inspired this scene in The Flash Season 5 Episode 1. By the way, the actual scene is also a reference to this comic book, but Mob Rule, the fact that she mentioned Mob Rule and she actually mentioned this storyline is pretty cool. So that is it for the characters that were name dropped in this episode. I know I talked about the characters for a while, like 7 whole minutes, and I definitely won't talk about anything else for that long, but there are still a lot of Easter eggs and a lot of name drops and events that were referenced, items, locations, and even words that were referenced that I will go over in the rest of this video, starting with the events. And there's actually more events that were referenced than people, but I still won't talk about them as much as I talked about the people. So first up is the phasing plane, which I already talked about, so I don't have to talk about here, but there's also the King Shark / Grodd seemingly fight scene or fight episode that will happen in the back half of Season 5. This is something that the showrunner mentioned. He said that could possibly be an episode that features both King Shark and Grodd. When he announced that, I thought, that sounds like a very expensive episode, and it turns out through this episode, this has basically been confirmed. In the back half of Season 5, there will be an episode where King Shark seemingly will fight Grodd, which sounds pretty awesome to me, and I'm very excited for that episode. Then we have a reference to the pre-Flashpoint timeline through Ralph Dibny. Now, Ralph Dibny said that if Barry had time traveled to save him from being killed by DeVoe originally, or whatever DeVoe did to him, then that might have caused him to die in the particle accelerator explosion. I don't know how that actually works, because that actually happens before all the DeVoe things, but this is a reference to the original timeline of the show when the show started before Flashpoint, where in that timeline, Ralph Dibny did die in the particle accelerator explosion, or at least he was affected by that explosion, while in this version, or the timeline after Flashpoint, he seemingly isn't, which is very interesting how they reference that, because back in Season 4, they actually forgot about the Ralph Dibny name drop. One of the writers on the show said that they completely forgot about the name drop of Ralph Dibny in Season 1, so they just said Flashpoint made him not die, which I guess Flashpoint did something positive, which is pretty cool if you ask me, but I like this reference a lot, or at least it's not really a reference, it's more of just a small joke, an inside joke for the show. Then we have the 2024 article, or the 2049 article, which is 25 years after 2024, which said that Barry is not around 25 years later, and he is still missing, or probably maybe even dead. So there is a paragraph on the bottom of this new article that basically says that people remember seeing Green Arrow, Batwoman, and Elongated Man at this crisis, along with a superhero who was lost in time or was thought to be lost in time, the Atom, or superheroes from other worlds like Supergirl, and some even remember seeing the Reverse Flash leading an army of shadow demons. So this is a huge clue for the Arrowverse in general. This confirms that Batwoman is from Earth 1 because it says that Supergirl is from another Earth, but Batwoman, it doesn't say that. So it's possible that either the public doesn't know that Batwoman is from Earth 1, or maybe she actually is. Also, the public knows about time travel and about other worlds in the year 2024, which is very interesting. It also confirms basically what will happen in probably the season finale of The Flash Season 10, if it gets that long, with Reverse Flash as the main villain, leading an army of probably Time Wraiths, as they do look like shadow demons, which sounds pretty awesome to me, with all those an army of Time Wraiths plus Reverse Flash fighting Green Arrow, Batwoman, Elongated Man, Supergirl, the Atom, and probably a bunch of other characters who will appear in that episode. That is something I'm very excited to see if we ever get to that point. So like I said earlier, the Flash ring is definitely an Easter egg to the comic books. I'm pretty sure this is the first time the Flash ring has ever appeared on the show. It might have been referenced before, and Reverse Flash definitely had his own Reverse Flash ring that would shoot out a Reverse Flash costume that he would run in and become the Reverse Flash, Reverse Flash, Reverse Flash. Anyway, the Flash ring is a very iconic item the Flash uses to put on his costume, where it would jump out of the ring. It's crazy how it fits in there, but I honestly have no idea. Maybe it's like microscopic technology or nanotech or whatever, but it would jump out of there and he would run into it and he'd run around it and the costume would be on him. It's a very iconic scene, a very iconic item. Kind of crazy it took them this long to bring it onto the show. 5 whole seasons, or really 4 seasons, and then like 1 episode for this episode. But it is still pretty cool, and it's definitely a Easter egg to the comics. Then we have the Flash Museum, which we have seen before on the show, where Barry ran through time, so as past, present, and future. One of the things he saw and probably just didn't pay attention to was the Flash Museum, because the reason I think he didn't pay attention to it is because he was very surprised when Nora said the Flash Museum. Maybe he just didn't remember, maybe didn't pay attention, who knows. But the Flash Museum, I would be very, very doubtful that it would appear this season, if any season, until the last season. I think it would be cool for the last episode to end, or one of the last episodes to end with the Flash Museum finally being built. I think that would be pretty cool. But the Flash Museum was directly mentioned in this episode. It has been directly shown before, but it's never been mentioned before, and it's pretty cool that they finally mentioned it. Then we have an Easter egg that actually completely went under my radar in this episode. I had no idea about this, but when looking up Easter eggs from this episode, really it's the only one I missed, and that is a word you might have noticed throughout the episode. Instead of saying cool or dope, Nora Allen was saying Choi, which is apparently the future way of saying those words, and this is actually from a DC TV show. DC TV show popularized this word. Well, it's not exactly popular, it's not used very often, but this word is from Batman Beyond. Now, the reason this is cool is because both Batman Beyond and Nora Allen have like very similar things to them. Like, they're both from the future, and that's really it. But it's cool to think that Batman Beyond influenced the future of the Arrowverse by implementing the word Choi. Who knows? Batman Beyond can actually exist 30 years in the future. We do know that Batwoman is around. That means Batman is around. That means Batman Beyond could definitely be around 30, 40 years in the future, and the fact that they referenced Choi, which is from Batman Beyond, is pretty cool. So that is it for all the references and Easter eggs in The Flash Season 5 Episode 1 titled Nora. If I missed any, definitely let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear any that I missed. I would also love to hear that I didn't miss any, so I did a great job in this video. But if I did miss any, I would love to hear them. But if you like this video, don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for watching.